Hello and welcome to Creating with Shannon. I'm Shannon, and today we are going to finish up, well, not finish, but continue working on the two cake stands that we were working on yesterday. The silver tray cake stands, silver plate. They are so much fun to do, and they're so versatile with the pent art products, IOD, and et cetera. You can just do so much with all of these items. So today we're going to start with the paint inlay. Let me share this screen. This is where we had left off yesterday with this one. This is an IOD paint inlay. So we applied it with paint, put it on, and we're going to take it off. So I'm going to show you how to remove it and how to seal it. And there's going to be several more layers we're going to do with this one, but we're going to start with this. So we won't get this one complete today because all of the multiple layers that we're going to put on this always take a lot of dry time because you don't really want to rush the process on some of them. So I'll either pop back on and finish it, or I'll just put it on as a video. You can watch it at your convenience. Okay, so let's get started with this one. So this is a paint inlay. We talked about them yesterday. It's like a tattoo. It actually has paper, and it has paint on the paper. So we put the paint on wet, stuck this on it, and then we let it dry. So right now, like if I were to try to tear this off, it would rip. It is on there. It's stuck. It is one piece with this tray. But we need to remove the paper, but we want the design to stay. And that is the paint inlay. So let's go ahead and do that. I have my little mister. You can tell I use it a lot. It's pretty dirty. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply get the paper wet on the paint inlay. And we're just going to kind of just give it a nice rub. What we're doing is we're wanting this water to soak into the paper so it will release from the cake stand and leaving the paint inlay behind, because the paint should be dried. The paint inlay should be dried into the paint now. Think of it like the paint is stealing the paint inlay from the paper. So you want to give this a little while for the water to absorb into the paper so the paper will come off easily. Just gonna give it a little bit more. Sometimes I forget to get the corners because I always focus on the design, but I want to make sure that the edges and everything are activated and ready. All right, so this has to be the best part of the inlay, is when you're actually releasing the paper. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And I'll test it to make sure that it's ready to come off. Okay, so some of the paint just came off right there, but that's okay. I can touch that up. So I'm just going slow. You want to peel it off slowly. You don't want to rip it off like a Band-Aid. Oops, this little piece is sticking right here. I may not have gotten it all wet, but let's start down here. Here we go. We'll do this corner. It was starting to stick right there. There we go. Look how beautiful that looks. See how the imprint is. Let me get that wet because I think, there we go. Let that soak in for a second. I don't think that paper was wet enough. Sometimes like I said, I miss little areas, but it's easy. You just go back and re-wet it. So we'll start from over here on this side. Hey, Michaela. Doing the dreaded peel off of the paint inlay, hoping it works. Look at that. Look at how well that transferred on there. Even the concave part of our tray, because we smushed it into enough paint. If I would not have put on as much paint, I would have received a much lighter print of my paint inlay. But since I used enough paint, like I like to say equivalent to 2 coats of paint, I received a beautiful imprint of what the paint inlay looked like. Now, the rest of this, I'm going to, you can see there's still, excuse me, paint on there. So I'm going to lay it flat to dry so I can reuse this. Now, next time I reuse it, it won't be quite as deep in colors, in design, because I've already removed a bunch of the paint inlay from it. So it'll just be lighter. Isn't it? I love the melange. Okay, so we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to use the glossy varnish to seal it. I know yesterday when we were talking, there was some confusion. Well, not necessarily confusion, but just different styles of how you can seal a paint inlay. And I like to just take a solvent-based sealer, and I can just brush it on. I don't have to worry about it smearing, smudging, or anything. I know yesterday we were talking about somebody taking 50-50, 50% water, 50% clear coat, and you can spritz it on. But the reason why I don't do that anymore is because you can miss certain areas. So when you go and you brush on your final coat of your clear coat or varnish, whatever, you can still smear. So that's why I just go right into the solvent based. All right, so this is a little bit wet. So I'm going to stick this one aside, let it dry, and let's pull out the Rooster one we were doing yesterday. All right, so here is the Rooster. Now I do want to just say a couple things about this Rooster. I'm fairly new to the pouring glaze. I've used it for painting it on, but I've never really poured it on something like I poured it on here. I wrote it down so I didn't forget. Okay, so the two things that I noticed about this is when there was a section over here that seemed like it needed just a little bit more glaze. So I went ahead and I poured it on. Well, it was probably right after I got done with the live, I made the discovery. So when I poured it, it kind of, can you see this line right here? Let me lift it up. Can you see the line? It kind of created like a second pour. Essentially, it was a second pour. I figured, though, that because it was, the glaze was still wet, they would all gel together, and it didn't really. So there is a little bit of separation there. So keep that in mind if you're using the pouring glaze. Make sure you do all on the first pour. So you might want to put a little bit more than a little less. If you try to go back, you're going to get like this run here like I have. It doesn't bother me. It's fine. You can't really notice it unless you look at it. But because I'm learning all these products, I want to make sure that I know exactly what causes it and what happens when you do something. Now, another thing, if you can see like right here, see the red? Oops, look at this. See the red here? And there's a little bit of orange down here. Now, remember, we did seal this watercolor pens with a solvent varnish too. And and most of it didn't leak at all. These two areas bled purely because when I put the clear coat varnish on, I missed a teeny section here and a section down here. So that's what caused it to bleed. It normally shouldn't do that. And what I should have probably done is went ahead and put 2 coats on just in case before I put the water-based glaze on it. But like I said, I'm still learning this glaze with pouring it on. But anyway, I love the way it looks. I love the colors. Remember yesterday we were trying to get him to match here. Now obviously he's not quite as bright, but he is still very, let me turn this way, still very vibrant. I love it. Okay, so now what we're going to do with this, I'm not 100% sold on the way this tray looks to me. It's nice. We put the honey gold and then put a little bit of turquoise on top, and it came out cute. But it seems to me like something's just missing, and I'm not really sure what it is. So as I was digging through all my pen art products, because I have a lot of them, I decided I was going to try something. It's new to me. It's the chameleon varnish. Now I used it on the Lazy Susan on the very edge, and it just gives a little bit of a shimmer. So it has a glitter. So there's gold, brass, and silver. And I thought that for this one, I thought the bronze would probably, where's it at? Of course, the last one. That the, or not bronze, brass, my bad, brass. The brass one looked the best because it will kind of tie in a little bit more with this one. So we're going to do that. And we're just going to simply brush it on, and then we're going to let it dry. So that is probably the last thing we will do to this one. I've thought about maybe adding, I do have like a chicken mold, or Rooster. Like put clay and maybe put some around there, and I might. And if I do, I'll post pictures. Okay, so there is a little marble in here. So when it shakes, it gets all the glitter, gets it moving. Okay, and then we're just going to simply paint it on. And it's very subtle. It won't look like kindergarten artwork where you just have glitter everywhere. And you can actually see some of the glitter in there. Sparkle, see that? This will just add the last finishing touches to this. This way it'll also kind of blend in where some of the colors leaked, where I didn't get it covered with the varnish. Now I can see my brush strokes, and I don't know if that's because of the brush I chose. I'm hoping that this will be self-leveling and I won't see where my brush strokes are, because there's little lines. See that? So you can see the brush strokes, like how wide my brush was. So let me just grab a different brush and let's see if we can smooth some of those out. There we go. Yeah, just take some of those lines out. I'm sure it's self-leveling, so we shouldn't have to worry about it. But I just want to be I want to be careful because I don't want these lines on here. All right. One more that's sticking out. Ta-da. I guess I could always switch to a bigger brush, but this should be fine. I like the way the concave area, it's a little bit brighter. Oh, there's my son. Hi, son. My little guy's out looking in through my little den window. All right, so put that in the water. Now, so this is basically done, and I just love the way it turned out. So it's a cake stand. And so we're going to put this aside to dry. We're going to visit, again, the paint inlay. Now, it feels dry, but it's cool to the touch. So that means it's not dry yet. So even though it feels dry, but if it's cool, it means it's not dry yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and use this just for a minute. I think. Hold on. Started to come out of the plug. All right. So I'm going to dry this for a minute. And then like my plan for this, what I'm going to do is my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on this glossy varnish. And it's very similar to the varnish I used yesterday on when I sealed the Rooster. But this one has like a little bit of an amber hue to it, so it's going to make it look old. And then I'm going to use one of my favorite Pent Art products, Fine Line. Love, love, love this, but there's a lot of steps you have to put on component 1. Let that dry. Then you have to put a component 2, and that takes 24 hours to dry. And then we come back and hit it with some antique wax. So it's going to be, I won't be able to finish today, unfortunately, but I will have it finished tomorrow. Okay, so this is dry. No longer cool to the touch. Obviously, I just used my heat gun, but you can tell a huge difference. We're going to go ahead and seal it with a glossy varnish. And let me grab a brush. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to use, no. You always want to try to use a clean dry brush. You don't want to start with a wet brush. So we're just going to use this one right here. I didn't clean my brushes from yesterday, so that's my bad. Again, it's solvent based, so it has a little bit of a smell, but it's not nearly as potent as the one we used yesterday. This one, that one was really strong. All right, so we're gonna go, and I'm gonna make sure I cover the whole thing and not miss. Oof, that is potent. And not miss areas. Now this little part where the paint came up, that generally doesn't happen. So I'm just assuming that I put a little bit too much water on and it just stuck to the paper. Now notice my paint inlay is not smearing, and I'm brushing on the clear coat. Remember, because it's solvent based, it works like magic. I need to get myself a little fan here at the desk just to be able to blow the potent smell. I do have a fan above me, but if I turn that on, all my papers will blow. Decoupage Queen, that must be Teresa, I'm guessing. Or is it Nancy? It only says Decoupage Queen, but anyway, hello. Thanks for joining. I'm using all of these Pent Art products that you guys have brought to us. Hey, Sandy. Okay, so this is going to dry. And then we're going to do the first layer of the fine line. We're really not going to be able to do much today because we have to put these on and they have to dry. So we put the chameleon varnish in brass on this one. And this one's basically done. It just needs to dry. But I cannot wait to see how the shimmer turns out on that one. And this one is going to look absolutely amazing. It's Teresa. All right. I don't blame you. It's such a pain in the butt with Facebook sometimes when you're commenting on one, you go check a notification, it automatically switches you to the other one. Yeah. All right. So this one, we've got a lot going on because let me bring it up close. And if you see the wrinkles where the paint was, so those are going to be different layers of texture. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put some fine line on top too. So there's going to be all kinds of textures going on. And there is some original lines from the tray itself. Like there was the designs from the silver tray. So that is in there too. So this is going to be really decorative when I get it all finished. So let's go ahead and we're going to dry this real quick. I'm not really sure if you're allowed to, or if you can speed up the glossy varnish, but I assume you can. I know there's some things that you shouldn't speed up. But I want to speed this drying up because I really want to get the fine line crackle started. If you haven't seen the fine line crackle before, you are going to be amazed at what it can do, what it looks like. I've used it on a lot of stuff. I love using it on furniture. I did it on a big door and it just came out so beautiful. I've actually done it on a couple doors, but I think I've only posted the one. I also did it on this really big cabinet. It was beautiful. That's why I need Pent Art to come out with bigger sizes on everything because I want to use it on furniture. All right. Oh, I guess I can take my chicken down. And let's put that one up. Teresa, if you're still with us, do you know you can use a heat gun on the clear varnish, right? Or the glossy varnish? It shouldn't be a problem, right? I think I've seen everybody do that. I know you can do it on paint, but I know there's some things you don't want to rush. Like I'm sure you don't want to rush the first layer of the fine line crackle. Thanks, Michaela. Just wait to see what oh, okay, good. Thank you, Teresa. Um, so according to our guru, our Pent Art girl, you can speed up the glossy varnish, so that's good. If you haven't seen yesterday, she did a live and she was finishing up a project she did. It was like a 3D angel. Gorgeous. You should check it out. It's called Teresa Renee Art. I should probably drop a link for you. Just give it a break from time to time. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Ow. I don't normally use a heat gun, but with lives, I think you kind of have to. All right. I know that I probably shouldn't put the fine line on when it's super warm like that, but Teresa Renee Art, yes. So I'm going to drop your link there just so people can follow you because, like I said, your project was awesome, but you always do cool things. Oh, and she did a wonderful paddle, like a canoe paddle, and she used a pouring glaze, and it was beautiful. So some other different ways to use a pouring glaze compared to the way that I used it on the Rooster tray. Rooster tray. Now it seems like my lines are still staying. I can see them. So maybe I should use if it's still wet, I'm gonna see if I can get a different. No, it's almost dry. So that's gonna be there. So I'm gonna put another layer on real quick. Because I used a thinner brush, I think it was like a 1/2 inch wide, it really pushed the lines of the brass. So you can see the brass stripes. So I'm gonna use a wider brush and see if I can kind of hide that. And what I'm going to use this because it's wider. And I'm just going to, yeah, see that? You can't, this is what I should have used in the first time. It's, like I said, I'm still learning all these Pent Art products. But I tell you what, give me 6 months and I'm going to know them all. And I'm going to be a professional at all of them. Just from playing and from watching Teresa Renee Art. All right, put that back. All right, so now there's another layer on there. So that will hopefully balance that out a little bit. Okay, let's go back to this one. Okay, so you can see that the glossy varnish has dried. So what we're going to do now, though, is we're going to put on the first layer of the fine line crackle. Now this is a must. You can't get the fine lines without using the first step of the crackle varnish. Now this is actually crackle that sits above whatever you're working on. It doesn't actually crack. Like it's not going to crack my paint inlay and the paint here. If I wanted to have done that, I would have needed to put the crackle underneath all that. Not going to do that. Hold on, Heidi. I'll address that again in just 1 second. So this, the fine line actually sits above whatever your design is, and it's to make it look like a porcelain look, but it's to achieve cracks without having to have laid it underneath. It's really cool. It's we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to address Heidi. Yes, Heidi. Only in right here and right here at the top, and that is because I missed those two parts with the varnish when I put it on yesterday. All the other parts are fine. They did not bleed or anything, but that's simply because being live, sometimes you can't really get a good angle and you just kind of go. I should have checked it. I should have probably put another coat on just to have been safe, but that should not, it won't happen. It's only because I missed an area and that it got in there, and that's why it did that, because the pouring glaze water based compared to the sealer that I used that was solvent based. But normally that would not happen, but that's user error. Does that make sense, Heidi? Let me put that up there. That's she had asked. Okay. So I'm gonna get my brush. You want to start with a clean, dry brush when you're using this. You're welcome, Heidi. And this is part 1. So it's really thick. And we're just going to brush this on. It kind of smells like Elmer's glue. It does not have a bad smell at all. Oops, I've got a little paintbrush hair. Get that out of there. Now when this dries, I'm going to put on a layer, component 2 of the fine line crackle, and then let it do its magic. I remember the first time I used it, I really didn't know what I was doing. I'm one of those that I'm like, oh, give it to me. I'm going to try it. Let me see what this stuff does. Well, after it dried, I was like, yeah, I guess I didn't do it right. I don't see any cracks. And then I was kind of bummed. I was like, what in the world? I spent all this time, all this effort, and I didn't get any cracks. What the heck did I do wrong? So I went and watched a video on how to use it. Lo and behold, it did work. It's just that you can't see them because they're fine line. I'm just cleaning up the edge. So what I did was I took some dark wax, started rubbing it on the door, because I first did it on the door, and voila, magically the cracks appeared. They were there the whole time. I just couldn't see them because I really didn't know what I was looking for. But they are truly amazing. And let me show you here. Look at this. This is what it's going to look like. See this? See these? Now this is big cracks because I wanted it big. This worked out perfect for the look I was going for. Michaela, see, we're a lot alike, right? If I would have wanted more cracks or smaller cracks, if I take my heat gun to it, it really gets more cracks. And I seem to have gotten smaller cracks when I use my heat gun. But I like the way this turned out. This sat overnight and it was just perfect. Again, you can't really see the cracks unless you look really closely at them. But once you start putting that wax in there, perfect. All right, so these are going to dry. The Rooster one is going to be done. So that'll be finished. I'll show you that result. And then tomorrow I'm going to put on the second coat of this. I don't know if I'll come on live or not, but I'll definitely come on live when it's time to put the wax in the fine line because you guys will be amazed. It is the coolest thing. And the cool thing is like, I used white paint, so the dark antique paste will look the best. But if I had used black paint, I could go back in with the fine line crackle and use white. And it's just simply amazing. It's just a totally different look, but it's very versatile and it's just a fun product to use. That's gorgeous. I've never gotten cracks spaced that large. You know, when I put it on, I have a video. I posted it to YouTube. I just haven't made it public yet because I wanted to make sure. I'm working on a reel to release it so I can promo my YouTube. I'm learning. But I show you how I put it on. I just put it on kind of thick. And it dripped a little bit on a few places. And I did not use my heat gun. And then look, see the drip? It doesn't look that bad. I kind of like the drip. It makes it look more, you know, like authentic, like it's an old piece. There's a couple drips in the back too, but it just worked. And then I love the trick of getting the extra wax off. I think it was a Pent Art video, and it showed to use the clear wax paste, and you can go back, and it takes off like the extra brown wax that you don't want. It was amazing. Okay, so, well, I'm going to end that here. I appreciate you guys popping on and saying hello and chatting with me. And I will continue these projects and I'll keep you informed on how they turn out and what they look like. You guys have a great weekend and have a fabulous day. All right. Bye-bye.